Before starting this video, I want to give a huge disclaimer that I am absolutely not holier than thou. I would never cast the first stone. For the people that have been knowing me for a long time, I have a very troubled history. I've done very judgeable things. I've stolen, I've lied, I've cheated, I've schemed, I've gossiped, I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. So this is not a place where I'm going to judge. This is not a place where we judge people's mistakes or judge people for their imperfections. I just want to put that aside. But despite all the terrible things that I've done, the people that I've hurt, because quite frankly, I am aware that I have had moments in my life that I'm not proud of, that I hurt people, that I've done things that I wish I'd never done. But at the end of the day, I'm also human and we have to learn from the things that we do in the past. And today, I want to talk about how we can actually learn from our mistakes in a way that we can strengthen our sense of integrity, which is also going to line up with our sense of self-respect and self-trust. So let's get into it right now. So like I just said, I really want to put a big emphasis on the fact that we're all going to do things that we're going to regret. We're all going to hurt people. We're all going to sometimes, like I talked about it, be our shadow self and do things that maybe looking back at it, we're like, oh, that wasn't my best moment, or that's not the kind of action of person I want to be in the future. And we're all going to be disappointments to people around us, to ourselves sometimes. So that is absolutely normal. That's absolutely okay. And that is also a very important part of who we are today. Because to be quite honest, I was going to say not do things that we regret later. But if I think about it today, there's not really much choices I made in the past that I regret. I do always regret hurting people from the actions that I have taken in the past, but I do not live with any regret of the choices that I made in the past. And that really comes from the fact that I have learned to own up to my mistakes and also see the learning curve in them. Take the L, take the lessons, and move on, bounce back. So every mistake that I made is not something that I am constantly running away from, or not something that is constantly hanging over my head, because accountability and taking responsibility for your mistakes is truly something that is going to set you free. So whatever I'm going to talk about now, it's not an end-all be-all way to feel more integrity or all the responses to the questions that you have, but it is based on my own experience, on things that I have noticed for myself and that work for myself. The very first thing to have a very strong sense of integrity and to strengthen your sense of integrity, because I really believe that it is something that we can practice, something that we can strengthen over time, and it can be hard when we start doing it. But it really comes with learning to look ourselves into the mirror and taking accountability for our mistakes. Learning to recognize is the first step. It's seeing things for what they are, and a lot of the times we don't realize things unless we name them. So truly speaking things out or telling ourselves, or sometimes it's when someone else tells us how they feel or how we made them feel, that we can truly come face to face with the things that we have done. I guess a lot of the times we can get very defensive, or we can try to run away, or we do not want to believe it, or we're not ready to face the shadow side of ourselves. But it is a very big step, and it's really start half of the problem and half of the effort to look in the mirror and tell yourself that you too made mistakes. And sometimes, even though we did not have the intention, we can hurt people around us. And I think that's also a very important part of it, because if you know from yourself that you don't have the intention to hurt people, that it was never your intention to be malicious, and that you honestly know it's a mistake, or you cannot understand why you did that, and you feel some sense of remorse, guilt, or regret when those feelings come up for you, you are kind of already forgiven. This is such a beautiful step, and this is such an important part of like the whole internal thought process, that I just find once you know, you're clear with your own heart and you know your own intention, it's so much more easier to move on and to know that you are just human and you can just forgive yourself. And this is also a process. So at the beginning, we can sometimes really blame ourselves very hard. And this also depends on how you were treated as a child or how you were approached when you made certain mistakes. For me, for example, I've had the privilege that every time I made a mistake, people were very loud about it. And I was never good at hiding it away, or God just found a way for all my lies to get exposed very fast. Or a lot of the times I'm just a terrible liar and I just could not keep those kind of secrets to myself. If, for example, I did something very, very bad and I knew it was hanging over my head, that sense of guilt and my inner voice has always been very strong in a sense that I know that it's not right. And I know it can be very scary, but owning up to it and also being able to talk about it with other people, taking responsibility, admitting to other people that you also played a part in the situation, even though this can be a very hard pill to swallow, because it takes us to really put our own ego aside, to tell ourselves like, yes, I made a mistake and I hurt you, even though it wasn't my intention, even though maybe the whole situation, I had my reasons for doing certain things. It's never a bad thing to also acknowledge other people's feelings or just acknowledge the maybe not so responsible part of the actions you've taken. And I know when I talk about it, it kind of all sounds very logical and it makes a lot of sense, but it is not easy in practice. It's really not easy to come to that point, and it takes a lot of introspection and it takes a lot of courage to face those parts of ourselves, because like we talked about it, sometimes we want to ignore the flaws that we have. We want to ignore our shadow. We want to be the best version of ourselves and we want to show up in that way, and we want to make ourselves believe that we're better than we were yesterday. And yes, I know that we usually are doing our best, and I do believe that there's a curve upward when we look at it in like the long term, but it's okay for some days to be down, and it's okay for us to sometimes have missteps. So accountability and recognizing and then taking responsibility for your mistakes are very good, but a very crucial part that is even going to push us to put more ego aside, and it's a hard pill to swallow for some people. Well, yeah, you have to swallow your pride. I think that's the hardest pill to swallow sometimes, is having to apologize. I think sometimes we make decisions, we say things, we make choices that we feel like we cannot come back from, or it would take a lot of courage to come back from the things we say. I've had moments where I did something and it took me years to even realize my part of to really realize the pain I had caused people, or to be able to understand a situation from another person's perspective. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a few days, or, sometimes it takes us years before we're able to look back at a situation and realize the part that we've played in it. And maybe even after all these years, that's when you start to feel remorse and regret. I truly don't believe that it's ever too late to apologize if you feel like it. I've had a lot of people in my life that hurt me, for example, and there are people that have come back after years to apologize and to own up to their mistakes. And I have noticed that it doesn't matter how vile you've been in the past, if you still have the courage, even after so much time, because if there's so much time going, between the apology and the event, it also means that there is probably a lot of work that has been going on, or maybe people were just so caught up in their own pain that they didn't have the time or the space to see reality from another person's perspective. But I've just realized there are people that have done terrible, terrible things to me. Like, I can't even say it out loud. And there are people that have not done such dramatic things to me. But even if a person comes back that has done something way worse than someone else, the fact that they have the ability to come back and apologize, even when so much time has gone by, it's easier for me to gain back a sense of respect for that person. Respect is so easily lost. Respect is also something that we earn. It's not something that is given. And all the actions that we take is going to assess the way that people respect us, the way that people receive us, And I'm not saying this to necessarily earn someone else's respect or to appease to other people's idea of you. This is really to be in line with your own sense of self-respect and your own sense of integrity. Nothing feels better than every time that you do something wrong, or every time that you have certain values or certain situations present themselves to you, that you know that no matter what, you will have your back and you will not cross your own boundaries, or you will not do things that do not align with you. This has increased my sense of self-respect and self-trust so much more, because now I'm able to enter into new spaces, into new relationships with a trust in myself, in my own intuition, in my own feelings that has grown so much over time and with practice, that I just know that I can deal with sometimes unimaginable situations or with difficulties in life, because nothing is ever going to be, perfect, and I'm never going to be perfect. And I know that I'm still gonna make mistakes. And as life goes on, I believe we do have more responsibilities, and the weight of our mistakes or the bridges we burn or the people we hurt might be way more heavy in the future than they were in the past. If we think about the people in the past from in high school or even before, they don't matter in our life like that anymore. But as we grow and as we have more weight to our name, or we build a career, or we build a family, or we have different kind of networks in our life, our network is so valuable, and we're not gonna have perfect interactions with everyone. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna maybe insult some type of person. Maybe we're gonna do things might get sticky, but knowing that no matter what happens, no matter what situation you're encountered with, you can always have your own back and get yourself back on a straight line where you know who you are and who you aren't. This is really going to help you to also let go of what other people think of you, because I noticed that a lot of people might judge you also from the things that they heard of you, or you might do something. Everyone has their own perception of different people, right? And if you do not know who you are, if you do not own up to the mistakes that you have, if you keep pushing away those parts of yourselves that you cannot look face to face, it's gonna be very hard to believe that you are actually the person that you are trying to be, or that you are presenting yourself to be. And that is something just very painful that I do not wish unto anybody, but that it does happen a lot. I think it's very important to stay humble as well. And I think that part of this process of taking accountability, responsibility, and also knowing when to apologize, knowing when to sit down, and knowing when to take a step back and humble yourself in a situation is very important to be a person that not only respects other people, but is trustworthy. So yes, this requires a lot of introspections, honesty, retrospection, and humility, as I say. But don't we all just love it when people are able to take accountability in situations? I think this is also the key for any kind of healthy relationship. We cannot have a healthy adult relationship with people that cannot take accountability for their mistakes. If you are in a relationship with someone that can never see from your side, and you feel like you're always having to be the one that understands their point of view, and you feel like you're always in this point where you start to guilt trip yourself for saying your part of the story or affirming your boundaries, this is not a healthy relationship. This is not beneficial to you as a person, and I would not, from my own experience, I would not recommend. I would not recommend. But all this to say, and all this to remember, we're all people with imperfections. We're all people that are going to make mistakes, and no one expects you to be holy or perfect or just the light. And if someone does, please be careful with that. Those are people that put way too much expectations on you, and also that is something that you can, it's okay. Some people are not aware that they do it, but it's something that we must address, because it's not healthy to expect from anyone that they should be this kind of god or put on a pedestal, or they have no room to make mistakes. And have you ever realized that when people are able to look at themselves and be aware of the fact that they're not perfect and being able to own up to their mistakes, that we just trust those people way more? Can you imagine how much it does to your self-trust when you are able to tell yourself without beating yourself up that yes, you made a mistake, but tell yourself that you can grow from this and that this can be a lesson for you that you can move on from? That is also a very important part to feel the freedom, is to know that your mistakes are not fatal. It's not the end of you, but recognizing them is the first step to move forward and to become a better version of you that does not make the same mistakes anymore. But as long as we shy away from the mistakes we make and we don't come eye to eye with the mistakes we made, we will just keep perpetuating the same behavior over and over again until it crashes and it's just thrown into our face. It can be very shattering to do it that way. So I would really suggest to try this. Or not, you can do whatever you want. This was just my idea. This was something that I really wanted to share. I was just writing down and it came through. So yeah, I really hope that helped some kind of way. I don't know if anyone wanted that, but yeah, that's what we're here for, just sharing ideas. I hope that after this video, you can maybe feel your sense of integrity or maybe tell yourself that you've been doing very good. If nobody told you, I want to tell you right now, if you've been taking accountability for your mistakes, congrats. Because there's not a lot of people. I've noticed that a lot of people find it very hard. So if you are doing that, you're not perfect today, but you're trying and you're trying to be better than you were yesterday, thank you so much. You're doing such a favor to humankind, and I really believe that the best is going to come to you. You're going to be rewarded for that work. I truly believe that. I have to believe that, because otherwise, why do all this? Why do all this? That was today's video, guys. I feel a bit like I'm stuttering, my head is hurting. I felt a little all over the place in this video, so I really hope it made some kind of sense. But if it did, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you liked it. If you feel like anyone could use this video, feel free to share. And I truly hope to see you in the next video when everything is a bit more clear for me and I will probably be graduated. Thank you. Bye.